Hi players, dzień dobry from Wrocław, Poland. My name is Asaf and welcome to my channel Easy Board Games. Today I have the great pleasure of first of all being hosted in the studios of Awaken Realms and also to have a very special guest that is Pawel Samborski from Awaken Realms that is, at least for me, how I got to know Pawel is as the lead designer, of course, of S.T.A.L.K.E.R, the board game. This is how we got in contact to the beginning.
Hello.
But also, Pawel, actually, you also co-designed ISS Vanguard.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And on top of that, you're also developed quite a few games like Nemesis, Lords of Hellas, Ragnarok, Tainted Grail also developed. So far, I have my information correctly.
Yeah. You listed that correctly. I work at Awaken Realms for about 9 years now. It's a long time, so it's all pretty fuzzy.
Everything mixed up.
Yeah. Usually for me, it's like ordering which game came after which game instead of this came out in this year.
So I guess that my first question for someone who really, let's say, doesn't know the inside of the industry, what does it mean? What are the key differences between designing a game and being a developer for a game?
I laugh because this is a standing discussion between me and Michał Lach, one of the I would call him a senior developer. I don't remember his job title.
Sure.
But he's now in the company for a lot of years and he has a lot of experience, and we now work somewhat in below.
Okay.
And we still have this discussion about what is the difference between developer and designer. And this is actually, I think, not very clear in the board games industry. Like in computer games, I think it's more clear.
Okay.
And for me, personally, it's like designer is the guy who comes with the ideas from the ground up, from zero to something. And developer is the guy who then goes into the game. He gets to know it maybe as well as the author does. We had a somewhat heated discussion one time with Adam about this.
Okay.
Adam Kwapiński. And sometimes I think even the developer at some point knows the games better than the author. In some cases, in some specific situations. And then he tries to make the game as best as it can be. Meaning that they need to have less ego than the author, than the main designer. So to make their game still theirs, but don't change it into something they would like the game to be. It should still be the author's game, the designer game, but it needs to be as best as possible. That means they need to argue with the author a lot sometimes, not just yes saying all the time. They need to point out the weak points of the game.
So basically to take the main ideas of the designer, strip them down and just build them as like mechanisms into the game itself.
Even take the mechanisms the author comes in with and then distill them into the best they can possibly be.
Okay, when we're talking about, because you, as I said before, you were the developer also of Tainted Grail, which is, let's call it a classic campaign game.
Yeah.
But also you developed a game like Lords of Ragnarok, for example.
Oh, yeah, for a bit. I then switched it to another team.
Okay.
This was the moment I still was a manager of the development here at Awaken Realms back then. And this was the moment around when we had so many projects in the pipeline that I couldn't, supervise everything personally. And it was very difficult for me to let it go,
Sure. And when it comes to designing or developing a game, what are the differences between working on a campaign game and working, let's call it, on a one-shot or a regular game?
Yeah. The biggest difference is I think that you need to test it differently. I mean, the campaign game still needs loads of tests, like times the regular game times the campaign sessions.
Right.
And then if you change something, it may have repercussions way down along the road. So you need to take that into account. and you need to set. For me, the need to set up like. Program of tests, something like that. So you need to have those groups which are invested into testing the game also, because they will have to test it, for a month or something like that. I remember when we were testing ISS Vanguard, it was middle of pandemic, and we had the groups all around the world. So we also wanted to test, our English, how it's, how understandable it is, a bit of blind testing already on those parts. And we had groups from all around the world, of course, managing the pandemic situation if they can play in person, because we prefer it that way. And we had one group from New Zealand. Hello, guys, if you watch this. They were like, yeah, we are cool because we had this very strict quarantine. So we had almost 0 cases. Then they got the game and they had the full quarantine because they had an outbreak like immediately after they got the game.
Everything according to plan.
Yeah. Basically, we planned for the hoping for the best, and then the worst, of course, happened. What other differences? It's a different type of game. Like a lot of work goes into those mechanics, so the game will stay interesting throughout the huge campaign. That's why I wanted to do something different with Stalker.
Sure.
Because like working for about a year or 2 years, like in an ISS Vanguard, it was really exhausting. Also for me, I don't know how Krzysztof felt, because he's like he's like a supreme being. Like he doesn't show
fatigue.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, oh, come on, I work till 2 a.m. and I'm fine. And I am like, no, I'm not, waking up next day.
For sure.
And this fatigue also leads to, of course, mistakes and bugs in the game, and then the testing needs to be staged, so to say. We do something like also like TLDR tests or TLD play. Too long didn't play. Maybe that doesn't sound too well, but. What I mean is the guys and girls in the testing team then go through the scripts without applying them to actual game, just to check if the connections, for example, fit. And that's something you don't need to do with this one-off game. And also changing things in one-off game is easier, a lot easier than with campaign game, because you can check it in like half an hour or an hour, because sometimes you need to play like 3-4 rounds, and you see if it works or not in the broad picture. And in campaign games, sometimes you put something, you think it's fine, and then
much later.
Yeah, 1 year later, someone writes on BGG, this is actually a bug we managed to catch in the first Tainted Grail. You know that if you go to one place which can be besieged during the game, maybe not spoiling too much, and if you go to this particular marketplace, to this particular stall, and go back, the siege is lifted. Magically, you go back in time. This is the one we actually managed to catch before releasing. But it was, I think the files were already in the printers by then, so we were pulling them back to change some order of the scripts.
And when we're talking about Stalker in that case, because that is. Yeah. I cannot say that maybe it's like a classical campaign game, but also because we have the survival zone, so it's a one-shot, it's kind of a mix between some sort of a campaign game and a one-shot. Does that mean that you have 2 different development teams for this type of game and for the more narrative way, or it's still the same team that is doing basically everything?
It was still the same team, because we wanted to have people with the experience already, and that's why we teamed with Michał Oracz.
Right.
Like he took the mechanics and then built over them the zone survival. He was looking at the campaign missions, which were already somewhat designed, not finished in most cases, and he was picking the things which he liked. He also read a lot of background for the Stalker, and he was picking the quests from the computer games which he liked and wanted to put into the game. And then it went through me. I was doing the how to phrase it maybe, I was doing correctness assessment, how well it fits the universe.
Yes.
And we had one of the guys on development team, Philip. He was doing the development on Zone Survival mainly. I was playing and saying like, no, this doesn't fit, or we cannot have like rocket strikes on the area because it doesn't fit the game, and stuff like that. Michał was developing it, designing it, and then playing it with us, and mainly Philip, and then the other guy Conrad also pitched in, but it was mainly Philip doing the development on it because he had already this experience playing the campaign game as well.
So it was easier just to integrate into the process.
Yeah, exactly.
And if we already talk about, actually, you mentioned Michal Orach, because we talked also, and you know that I really love the way that he's writing and everything. How does a story in general, in a campaign game, comes alive? I'm guessing that when you're taking a game with a familiar IP like S.T.A.L.K.E.R, then you already have the foundations, the story is relatively already familiar, but then you're taking a game, for example, like Tainted Grail. And this is something that is like completely new that you need to build from the ground up. How does a story comes alive in that way?
With Tainted Grail, with the first one, the story was mainly part of the discussion between Marcin and Krzysztof. It was, for me, the story goes like, at some point Marcin watched something which got him this idea like, Arthurian Britain is cool.
Okay.
And he was, going around. By then, we were working in a really small team compared to nowadays. It was like 20 people in the office, and he was going around, during lunchtime and like, yeah, druids, and something like that. And Krzysztof was already working in house by then on campaigns for The Edge Downfall.
Yeah.
And Marcin at one point asked him if he knows stuff about things like that, and Krzysztof at some point was living and working in Ireland, so yeah, of course he knows like these Celtic influences and so on, and his writing, he already shown that. So they were discussing this, and Krzysztof pitched him the idea of the story, and then Marcin went to Beksiński's museum, and he was inspired by the graphics. So it was around the time the Netflix released a movie called Annihilation, Annihilation with Natalie Portman, and it had those. They had this like graphic effect to show that this is overworldly place, and Marcin really wanted that to fit into the view of the game. So also with this Beksiński style, the inspired artwork. Like if you see Tuatan, it has all this like shimmering rainbow-like colors combined with those monumental otherworldly architecture. So those were the main inspirations. And then Krzysztof started to make a game out of it. Out of these ideas, the world out of these ideas, and he took a lot of input. I have a background in archaeology, so I was, for example, sending the graphics a lot of Celtic stuff they can put into the game because we wanted to have a lot of these Gaelic Celtic influences into it. Some Vikings, of course, because Vikings are always cool.
Always.
If you know, or if you have this like notebook we released with the game, it has a lot of sketches around, and a lot of those were based on the real actual artifacts from our world, so to say. So that was how the story in Tainted Grail came up to be. With ISS, it was also like Marcin had the great idea on, I want a game about this huge undertaking, a massive thing. And with this one, we already had Andrzej Betkiewicz on board as well, as I think he's also credited as co-designer of the game. And Krzysztof. And when he had the big idea about how the story should go in this one, he's a great Star Trek fan. And for example, I am not. And we had a lot of discussions actually in this very place with Krzysztof about the pacing of the story already. We had a lot of experience doing Tainted Grail, and then we wanted to distill those experiences into the next game, so it will be a bit more approachable to say. One of the first things when we read the story, me and Andrzej were like, okay, this meeting will be about getting Krzysztof to cut out 1/3 of the game. Because for us, it was already too long. It was epic. It was very good for like a trilogy of books. And then we made it into about a trilogy of games. Like the main game, then the stretch goal, then the add-on. But still, it was too long, so we were going like, Krzysztof, maybe this part could be left out. Maybe we should stop the first act of the story here, and then, rewriting it, and then thinking about what should happen when we could add maybe some new components into this campaign mechanism to make it more interesting.
And if we're talking about mechanisms and story, do you sometimes find yourself like you have this story, so you know what you want the game to be about? Do you try to adjust the mechanisms of the game that will correspond somehow to the story, or the story can just be, I will not say in the background because it is a campaign game, but you have the story, you have the mechanisms, and there is no really a relationship between them?
I think there always should be a relationship between them. It depends. Basically, sometimes the story is more important. I would say in Tainted Grail or ISS, the story takes the first lead. And this is something we were discussing also within the team, like, do we actually want only to make the games with the story, or maybe some games where the game will tell you this story which it has?
Right.
Like two different approaches. For example, Nemesis is also all about the story. Like totally.
The story without having a story.
Basically, it's the game which will allow you to tell its story.
Right.
Like you create it. And with those campaign games, usually you have the story, which you will explore, you will experience it, you will change it, you will have an influence over it. But it's like with, RPGs and choose your own adventures. They are like very similar at some point in which experience they give you, but in different ways. Like in RPG, you have full, maybe not full control, but you can do basically whatever you want.
Right.
And within the choose your own adventure, you need to go through the nodes, basically, which were prepared for you. And I think this is the biggest difference in approaching. So if you have the game which will tell you its story, it is contained and you can influence it, you need to have the mechanics which allow you to experience this story. That's the thing we learned with the first Tainted Grail. We had also very demanding mechanics in terms of survival parts.
The exploration.
Exploration and the combat.
Right.
So sometimes they didn't allow you to experience the story as much as you wanted. That's why when we were making this 2.0 version and then the Kings of Ruin, Michał took the development lead, the guy I mentioned earlier, Michał Lach, and he that was his like one of his first points. Like we made the mechanics to stand on its own, and sometimes they were opposing the story. Like they didn't let you experience the story the way you wanted it.
Okay.
So that's why he cut out, for example, those heavy survival.
So there will be like really a correlation between the mechanisms and the story of the game.
Exactly. If the story tells you that you are already going better and better, then the mechanics should reflect that. With the first Tainted Grail, we started with those like Theme C, they weren't the best guys they had to offer. So we wanted to reflect that in the mechanics. That's why the survival was so hard.
Right.
But it didn't, I would say, it didn't resonate too well. So the next time we took the experience and we thought about that.
Lesson learned.
Yeah, exactly. That's the cool thing about working in the same place for a long time, like I do. You have a lot of experience to lean on. You have a lot of people who you can lean on and also work with their experience, like having Michał Oracz around with his maybe 30 years of experience. That's a lot of things he already did totally messed up. So he can tell you, don't do that. This is a wrong way to do this.
I tried it and it does not work.
Then you do it on your own because you are strong-headed and you don't want it and you are just plainly stubborn. When you do it, then it fails, and that's why it fails. This is the experience part. And then you go into this role when you tell someone else that you did it already. It
and
doesn't
they will
work.
insist to do it in any case.
Yeah, sometimes they already saw you fail in it,
right.
so it's a bit easier. But sometimes they need to try it on their own to see that the fire burns or something like that.
Pawel, I want to talk a little bit more about Stalker.
Yeah.
And I remember that when you had the live Q&A, I sent you a question, but I would like to ask it again, actually, okay?
Yeah, go on.
Because for me, on narrative games and campaign games, if you have this type of game, the story is extremely important, okay? Like, you cannot have a campaign game that the story is like, it's okay, because usually you play it for the story. And I told you in private that I really liked the writing that you had in S.T.A.L.K.E.R. And I wanted to ask you, because I felt that this is written in a dark and uncompromising kind of way. And I wanted to ask you again, how do you know how far you can push your writing and to what extreme that you're saying like, wow, this is like edgy and cool, or this is like, well, maybe I exaggerate, maybe this is a little bit too much?
Okay, with S.T.A.L.K.E.R, it was really easy. Don't worry. No, it wasn't. Actually, parts of it were easy, and parts of it were hard, as with everything, I suppose. Biggest thing was to get, because I wasn't writing it most of the time. I was doing like those, some of those lore parts in the rulebook were written by me. And most of these bigger blocks of text were just briefed by me,
okay,
or one of the guys on development, especially in stretch goals, and they were written by Marcin Mortka, one of our in-house writers.
He did a really good job of it.
Yeah, he's really great because he writes a lot of different things. He writes storybooks for children. So he has, his workshop is really broad. He was also one of the writers on Dragon Eclipse.
Okay.
So he fits really into totally different settings. With S.T.A.L.K.E.R, we discussed also a lot of narrative design with him, and it was, for me, it was easier because I played the games a lot. Like, I think Kuba Wiśniewski from Glass Cannon once in one comment said that if it's Sambor doing the S.T.A.L.K.E.R, you should not be worried. He lives S.T.A.L.K.E.R, and yeah. So it was easy because of the LARPing in the universe. Also, like, you get this feeling how people should act in this world. Like, they should be uncompromising, gritty. The guys and the girls at GSC said something like, we now call this our setting, our universe, as this Eastern European grimdark. And that fits in my head, like, it clicks. Perfectly. It's not post-apocalyptic because it's a small apocalypse.
Right.
It's localized. That's why they went with something different in how to tell it, and basically, being raised in like post-Soviet time in Poland, you have this feeling like the buildings are familiar a lot.
Yeah.
Especially if you do some urban exploration, maybe airsoft and stuff like that, you go into those places. If you do LARPs in Poland, we have still Old Town. I think it's one of the biggest nowadays it's called, I think, post-apocalyptic festival.
Okay.
I remember when it was a tiny LARP in northwestern part of Poland. It was, like 100 people dressed in rags, and then they started building, wooden forts, and then, remaking cars into Mad Max stuff. So you see how they behave in similar settings. You know how they speak. Then you talk with Marcin, which has actually the workshop to make this fit. For example, we had a huge discussion about swear words.
Okay.
GSC told us that they don't want them.
Really?
We thought that they would fit the game, basically.
The atmosphere of the game.
Yeah, those people who go into the zone probably need to, ease off after the day, and that's the least they could do. But they wanted, they put a dot on it, they don't want the swear words, they don't use the actual swear words in the computer game, and it should fit the IP. Okay, that's what we're fine with. So we tried to, Marcin was then, editing them out, changing them, and so on. And also the big difficulty was I knew how to speak it in Polish. I thought I knew how to speak it in Ukrainian, but it's always so sometimes you step on a mine.
Sure.
But we had GSC for that, so we were sending them sometimes snippets is this an actual phrase you would use in this case translated into English like this? And they were like, no, or yes, or maybe. I don't really know. Let me ask my narrative team back there. And they were like, after a few days, go with this. And we were like, no, we already deleted that script, don't worry.
It's old news.
Yeah, sometimes it was like that. We like to work fast. I know from the outside it doesn't seem always like that, but... so that was our background here in Poland was sufficient. Mm-hmm. I would say to
at least have a very good base.
Deal with it on some grounds. Then I had a great writer who has really brought the workshop of how to approach this. For example, he really early knew that this game shouldn't have too many dialogues.
Okay.
Because they won't be interactive, and I wanted to have as much maybe you don't think that your borsuk will speak like that, so let's not put your words into their mouth.
Sure.
So things like that were really early out of the game. They still are in some parts, but they didn't remain for long in most of the parts. And also a very good thing about working with experienced writers is that they don't have too much ego, and they know what's their job to do. They know how to nail it, and they can be, I would say, flexible in their approach. They know where to, when they need to change the story to fit the actual game. For example, the biggest difference for me between working on Stalker and working on Tainted Grail or ISS, for example, was that Stalker, in my head, should be a gameplay game in the first place, and then the story needs to complement it. This other approach than with Tainted Grail.
That's like the mixture. It's like more of a narrative. I would say it even closer in that terms to a little bit This War of Mine.
Yeah.
So that you have all the mechanism. You don't need to read any kind of the lore to play the game.
The mechanisms need to tell you the story. Exactly. And then if you have those nuggets of story here and there, like with the scenarios in the Stalker, they are just the premise for you to have fun.
100%. Because it adds that layer of entertainment and enjoyment to the game itself.
Exactly.
Pawel, if we're moving a little bit away from Stalker, but still in the IP world, I think I know the answer to this question, but if you could have chosen any IP out there that you would develop a game around, what you would have taken?
I was growing up in the mid to late 90s. So there are a lot of IPs from these times I would love to work on. We had an internal pool at some point what IPs we would love to make. So Diablo was very high on that, but it's really restrictive IP, I would say. The
Blizzard are not
did
easy people.
maybe I don't know them, so that's one of the things. But it's already taken, so good luck, guys. And then after Diablo, really high was a lot of Nintendo IPs.
Okay.
Like Krzysztof, for example, I'm doing his stuff now, but he's a huge fan of Zelda.
Okay.
Series, so he would love to make a Zelda game at some point. If somebody from Nintendo watches us, give us Zelda, please. What else? I don't think actually the one you have in mind would be a great idea nowadays. I already moved out. I watch a lot of Tim Kaine YouTube channel, and he speaks a lot about working on the Fallout. To say name the elephant in the room. I would love it. But making a game based on IP, which I like in those earliest installments, wouldn't mesh with the with what people expect.
Sure. Okay, I can understand that.
Already the series is a bit different to what I have in mind when making this game. And of course, you make a game for yourself till some point, but you need to think that you will. Share it with the world, so to say. And when you release the game, it's their game, not yours, not your game anymore. You may be on the box as the author, the designer, however you call it, but it's already the player's game, so player can do whatever they want, and they. First and foremost, they need to be happy with it.
Of course.
And for me, some things in like Fallout are no-go totally in this world, so they are not canon in my head. So there's that. I think I would love to make a Warhammer game at some point, probably, and more fantasy. And again, more fantasy than 40k, for example. There is an old IP by Bungie, the guys who made later Halo series. They made 2 strategy games called Myth.
Okay.
They are really old, like real-time tactical games. And I don't know how to approach it without making it a war game, but I had some ideas. So that's one of the really obscure IPs I would love to take. They were also really based on or inspired by Chronicles of Blood Company.
Yes.
So that's one of the things I would like to explore in a game at some point, maybe. What else? I don't know. I don't know if I wanted to really make another IP game so soon after working on another IP.
Yeah.
Now I am more experienced, knowing how one works on IP.
And it has a lot of challenges on its own.
Yeah. Like with Stalker, it was, so to say, easy because I knew what the world brings. To the table, so to say. I knew how to navigate it. And with other IPs, sometimes it will be a more difficult because sometimes you will not know all the stuff you can work with.
And talking a little bit more about yourself. I will explain.
Is that even interesting?
It's very interesting. But first of all, just in general, the question that I want to arrive to is how does one find themselves actually in this world of designing, developing, and how did board gaming actually started for you?
Okay, for me it started with a Polish knockoff. Back in the 90s, in the early 90s, we didn't have any protection of nothing like copyrights or something like that. Like in the early 90s, no one cared.
Okay.
Basically, when you coming out of this socialism/communism thing, everything is common. and you have like it's a very gray area.
Okay.
So we had a lot of computer piracy back in the day. Like you could have an IP taken from someone and do something of yours with it. And my parents at some point bought me for a Christmas gift a game called Jaskinia. It's a cave in Poland, Polish, and it was an add-on. Actually, I learned years later, to a Polish knockoff of Talisman.
Really? Okay, that's super
Yeah,
interesting.
so it was, it wasn't then I saw the base game for it, and it was like, wow, that's cool. That's some fantasy world with monster and stuff. And, on the cover it had, I think it was Gotrek and Felix. From Warhammer Fantasy, actually, slaying some kind of like chaos spawn or something. Not very good thing to give to like 5-year-old kid, but yeah, late 90s was a funny moment. Yeah. So yeah, that was one of the part. Also, I got into computer gaming quite early, like 95, 97. And a lot of games back then were really similar, actually, in mechanics to computer games. You could do a lot less on a computer. You had still memory constraints and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was really similar to what you can do with actually human mind on a board game. And then I was still then I went because of some computer games based on, again, Warhammer. Like Final Liberation, Dark Omen, and then Chaos Gate, the first old one. It got me into miniature war games.
Okay. So the classical Warhammer or things?
No. Back in like late 90s, early 2000s, you don't have the money to like go into wargaming,
yeah.
especially if you are a growing up teenager. And so it was more time. So Scare Me, you need to have like 10 minis and you can play. Of course, I went with Skaven, which tend to have like more like 20 minis.
Okay.
So already it became a lot more expensive than that. So we played more time in local fantasy club. And that got me into first, so to say, modern board games. Of course, Catan.
Sure.
Games like, Jungle Speed, so you can see that, okay, this is a board game, this is also a board game, okay, they are totally different. Like, you need to watch if the girls on the other side of the table don't have, pointy nails, because, in Jungle Speed, that's really thing
Almost
you
a
need
hazard.
to think about. Then, really quickly, we had a lot of early Portal games. So already I had some, not like personal touch with Michal Oracz.
Sure.
Like we played a lot of first edition Nemesis, Neuroshima Hex.
Okay.
Like till the tokens were almost white from overuse. Like 4-player games till 2 a.m. When you have like 16, 17 years. They were
pretty cool.
memorable. Then going on a LARPs in this post-apocalyptic scene, so to say, that also fit into this. So. And also a lot of people already from the, let's just say, industry frequented those. I remember meeting one of the guys from Rebel there. Mm-hmm. He came up with a Jeep with the brand, and you recognize the brand, and you ask him,
Hey, I know
you are working with board games, and he was like, yeah, and it was like, yeah, the coolest thing you can do. So there were experiences like that. Then you go to the studies, you met a lot of people with different backgrounds, and I still play miniature war games. We do some RPG. I still somewhere play board games. They are more sociable games.
Sure.
They are already getting more popular by then.
Sure.
And then at some point you are studying. In my case, I was studying archaeology, so somewhere over there, so something totally different. But still you are, like, archaeology is a really small field, like everyone knows everyone, and I was already known as this guy who plays with the minis and this guy who you can ask if you want to buy a board game of some sort, and probably he knows it, so he can give you an advice of sorts. And then at some point you need to start to earn like real money instead of doing an odd excavation here and there. So I asked my friend Łukasz Orvat. He's not with us anymore, unfortunately. Yeah, it was a great blow for the company. And I asked him, because I saw in one of my friend board game store an advertisement that Awakened Realms, which I already know because they were making those lovely painted minis. And already the first The Edge, I think by then, I asked him if this recruitment poster is still actual.
Like valid, yeah.
Yeah, if it's still valid. And he tells me, yeah. So I asked him if he can put a good word about me to the guy who's managing the whole recruitment process. Back then it was Marcin doing everything. So
One-man show.
It's already going, all the way to the higher ups. So it's cool. And I sent CV, I sent like motivational letter, and back then I was already doing a gig reviewing some of the games for like just a very small portal which my other friend from studies worked with, and he was doing computer games, and he asked me if I don't want to do board games because they wanted to expand. It didn't work out too well. But it gave me some ideas about nitpicking on the games. And Awakened Realms were already talking with. They were already developing this War of Mine by then. It was already after the crowdfunding campaign. And they had already Michal Oracz on board, and they were already thinking about the new game. It was going to be Lords of Hellas. So I came up. I met this guy, actually Marcin, three other guys sitting around the table, and that was our recruitment meeting. He put the map of the Greece on the table. He gave us some meeples and gave us broad overview of the rules and said to us, play. And we were like,
like that.
Okay, so we play. We played the game. I came second. Actually, the other guy who was recruited came up first. But Marcin told us that it was the whole recruitment process. We had to write, of course, our review/ideas on how to make the game better. I still have this PDF. I sometimes give it to people to look at.
That's pretty cool.
Where you start from.
Yeah.
It was, I think, like four A4 pages of text. Because I didn't really like a lot of the game, actually, starting from the connections on the map to like actions you can take.
So already developed Lords of Hellas from your really first recruitment meeting.
Yeah, it was really like it was a really weird thing when you sit with other people who are actually your adversaries, not in the game, but also like we are competing for the same position probably. So yeah, it was weird on the other side, but I really liked this process. So when I became the manager, I also used it a lot. Like looking people playing Nemesis. With all the backstabbing, and you tell them that it's recruitment process, then you tell them that you don't need to survive the game or win the game in order to be actually chosen.
Hired, yeah.
Yeah, it didn't ease out some of the tensions, but then you can see the people, how they behave, if they are not too alpha playery, if they don't have too much this dominating personality over the table, because those are not the traits you sometimes look for a developer then.
I think in general, when you see people play Nemesis, you can learn a lot about them in general.
Yeah, I remember during the studies, I didn't like those psychology topics too much, but then I found myself in the position I need them a lot.
So now hearing that you have such an extensive, basically, experience with board games even before going really into the industry, do you have 1, 2, 3 games that still, until this day, are like some sort of an inspiration, like, you know what, that thing from that game that I played 10, 15, 20 years ago, that's actually something I would like to have in some sort of way in my new game?
For sure, this War of Mine, still. After all these years, even now, like the guys are working on it, I still think that's one of the best things with our logo on it. Like Michał did a really great job with the mechanics on this one. I really like how it fits, how it clicks. What else? I really like the elegance of Neuroshimachs.
Okay.
Like it's easy. Like take the tokens, place the tokens, then maybe the battle starts, and that's most of the rules of the game. That's really good for me. I really like how elegant it is. I'm thinking about Game of Thrones a bit. Like this is like already a resolved game in some cases. Like there are strategies how to play it to win, and some. But I really liked how it felt back then when it was released. I really liked how well it fit the narrative of the stories. It was way before the TV series, so it was something a bit different. Like people who knew about the Game of Thrones were several, not all of them knew about it.
It was still sexy to say winter is coming.
Yeah. I think not a lot of people actually recognized the quote back then. And I really liked how it fit the world. I really liked how it spins on the topic. Like you could do your own story in this setting, in this world. And that's something which I think they nailed in this, and that's something you need to strive in the games which have any kind of backstory.
Sure.
Like you give the people toys to play. The story is one of the toys to play.
Sure.
And I think that's something you need to strive for in designing and then developing the game.
Pawel, before we're ending the interview, I have one last question, and I will make it easier for you.
Okay.
Not from Awakened Realms. Not from Awakened Realms.
I don't
Top
know
three.
If that's easier.
Top 3 board games currently on your list.
Currently on my list, I still have. They won't be in order.
No
It's
order.
top 3 order. You can make your own.
No problem.
Sidereal Confluence.
Okay.
This is this trading, negotiating game, which I really like. The game is the premise to have a lot of,
Table
a lot
present,
of, and also a lot of talk around the table. I
Sure.
really like those negotiation things in the game. I really like Dune Empire.
Yeah.
Sometimes I struggle with English titles, actually. I
worries.
remember the Polish one, and then I need to translate it, and then I think it's the same title in English, actually. So yeah, I really like how the so to say deck builder / worker placement thing works there. I really like the
We're
system.
talking, of course, about the Dune Imperium.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's the thing. When you have Latin into it, then it's
No worries.
totally-
We all understood.
In Polish, it's also Dune. Dune, it's Duna, so it's similar, but it's Imperium as well. So that's the second one, I think, and the third one.
What's on your table? Well, I know that you're really into war gaming, but
Actually, right now, the only board games I have on my table are for work.
fair enough.
Unfortunately, fortunately, sometimes unfortunately.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah. Usually yes. Yeah, maybe let's switch it a bit. The last 2 games I played actually were Metal Gear Solid,
Okay.
the board game, and also Assassin's Creed, and maybe you can think where I'm going with this.
For
and
sure.
I really like what they did in MGS with how the stealth works, how the AI works, and how it fits the IP again. Like you can feel, I wasn't playing back in the day the original MGS, but I can see where it came from.
Definitely.
And with Assassin's Creed, again, really good representation of IP. I really enjoyed how it felt. Like for me, the second Assassin's Creed, the computer game, is the best one of the IP, and I see how it fits the theme of the game, mechanics, and so on. There are more nitpicking to this one for me, but I really like how the campaign grows in the game. I really like how the box looks when you open it up. Like, wow, this is huge. This will be expanding a lot. And I really liked when I got the box. open it up and how it looks.
Part of the experience.
Yeah, for sure. So I think this Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of Venice is another one which needs to have a shout out. And maybe a third when we speak about it. Please. Maybe a third, Root.
Wow, you surprised me there.
Why?
Okay. No, I think great game.
I love Root. Like again, I don't think it's more about the game. It's also about the experience you can have with other people.
100%. And how contradicting it is, like the cute little meeples and how strong the game gets to.
Yeah.
That's pretty insane.
Yeah. That's something we discussed in Calico as well with some of the guys upstairs. Like, you have this cute game with cute kittens and cute blankets, and then like, wow, my brain is overheating right now a lot. Like, why?
Pawel, thank you very much for this opportunity to interview you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you as well. It was lovely to have a chat.
I appreciate it. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you learned something new or saw something that you like. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
Goodbye.